You won't believe what Bishop Patrick Wooden's wife just revealed after decades of silence. At 67, her long-awaited confession has everyone talking. For years, the name Bishop Patrick Wooden has carried weight across the pulpit and beyond. Known for his passionate sermons, unfiltered truths, and fearless stance on moral and social issues. Yet behind that powerful voice stood a woman who rarely spoke publicly. A wife whose quiet strength often went unnoticed while her husband commanded stages and headlines. But now, after decades of standing in the background, she's finally breaking her silence, and what she's revealing is touching hearts, challenging assumptions, and shedding light on the unseen struggles behind a life of ministry. For many in the church community, Bishop Wooden is the image of boldness, a man unafraid to call out sin or controversy, even when it draws criticism. He's been praised as a warrior for righteousness and criticized as being too outspoken. But his wife, who has spent over 4 decades by his side, has finally opened up about what it's really been like to walk with a man so deeply rooted in conviction, and the cost that kind of calling can have on a family. Speaking candidly for the first time, she admitted that while the world saw her husband's strength, she often saw his vulnerability, the weight he carried when the church doors closed, the tears that came after hard sermons, and the moments of doubt that few could imagine him having. She described how the early years of their marriage were filled with passion for ministry, but also hardship. There were nights when they didn't know how they would keep the church lights on, and days when her husband's firm stances caused people they loved to walk away. People think being married to a man of God is easy, she said softly. But sometimes it means carrying burdens that aren't yours, standing strong when you'd rather run, and keeping faith when the world is questioning everything about you. Her honesty struck a chord with many who've watched ministry wives endure silently, while their husbands became public figures. What surprised many most was her admission that there were seasons when she questioned if their marriage would survive the pressure. Between the criticism, long nights of prayer, and the loneliness of being the pastor's wife, she said there were moments she felt invisible. I had to rediscover who I was in God, she explained. For years I thought my identity was just being Bishop Wooden's wife, but God reminded me that He called me too. Her words reflected the pain and strength of countless women who find themselves overshadowed by the callings of the men they love. Still, despite the struggle, her tone wasn't bitter. It was filled with grace and reflection. She spoke about learning to see her husband not just as a bishop, but as a human being. She remembered the times when the weight of leadership nearly broke him, when criticism from the congregation would send him into moments of silence that only she witnessed. He'd come home from preaching with so much fire, she recalled, but when everyone was gone, I'd see the exhaustion in his eyes. The calling looks glamorous from afar, but it costs everything. Her words also brought attention to the unseen toll that public ministry can have on families. She opened up about raising children in the spotlight, dealing with people who constantly scrutinize their every move, and learning to protect her family from gossip and judgment. People wanted us to be perfect, she said. But we're not. We've made mistakes, cried, and fought to keep our family together like anyone else. The only difference is, our struggles were always under a microscope. But the most powerful part of her revelation came when she talked about forgiveness and resilience. She admitted that there were moments when resentment almost crept in, moments when she wished her husband would prioritize home over church, when she felt the sting of neglect masked as ministry. Yet through prayer and time, she said she began to understand the depth of his purpose. I realized his passion wasn't against me. It was for the kingdom, she said tearfully. And once I saw that, my anger turned into compassion. I stopped fighting his calling and started standing beside it. At 67, her perspective is softer, wiser, and full of peace. She said she no longer measures success by applause or numbers in pews, but by the quiet strength it took to keep faith through every storm. She's now using her voice to encourage other women in ministry, reminding them that silence isn't always strength, and that vulnerability can be healing. For years I thought staying quiet was noble, she admitted. But now I see that my story has power, and if it can help another woman hold on a little longer, then it's worth sharing. Her decision to finally speak has inspired countless women who have felt unseen in their roles as ministry partners. Social media has lit up with messages from wives, mothers, and church leaders thanking her for her bravery. Some called her testimony the voice of every silent wife in the church, while others praised her for humanizing what many see as a life of perfection. And Bishop Wooden himself has reportedly responded with deep gratitude, saying he's proud of his wife for finding her own voice. In a recent service, he referenced her words, saying, "My wife has carried me through storms no one knew about. Her strength is why I'm still standing." The moment reportedly moved the congregation to tears, showing the world that even the strongest leaders need support from the ones closest to them. As she continues to share her reflections, her message has grown beyond one marriage. It's become a reminder that behind every great leader stands someone who sacrificed quietly. She now hopes to start a ministry for pastors' wives, focusing on emotional and spiritual health, something she wishes had existed when she was younger. "We're often expected to pour into others while running on empty," she said. "It's time we learn to pour back into ourselves." At 67, her story isn't just about survival, it's about transformation. What started as silence has become a testimony of strength, love, and endurance. Her courage to finally speak up has peeled back the curtain on the real-life struggles of those who live behind the pulpit, revealing that even in the house of faith, grace must first begin at home. And for the first time, the woman who once stood quietly beside one of the most outspoken bishops in America is now teaching others that sometimes the most powerful sermons are the ones spoken from the heart, not the pulpit.